DP can take objectives, but they don't really have an ancient farmer. So as far as the farm game goes, I'm a little worried about Talon's play options. They're really fast, they have to win their lanes, and they have to apply pressure because they can't utilize the whole map. Whereas like this Kunkka, he'll be able to farm. This Razor can do too. There's really nobody who can farm ancient Talon unless this Tiny's going.
Dude, I legit
It's
felt
possible,
the
but I
exact
don't see
same
it.
way as you when they picked a lineup like this the last time they had Doom, and then they stomped the game.
Well,
so
that's
I
what you
stopped
gotta do,
questioning
right?
it. Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I got a little bit of faith, and I'm actually kind of, you know,
It's
concerned.
gonna look like that. It's either gonna look like they stomped the game, or it's gonna look like that Alchemist game
Yeah.
where they can't do
Yeah.
anything. It's, you're not gonna get it like some normal looking game.
Choose your hero.
And soft.
Yeah. With that last pick, Wraith King, me have the draft for our first game between Talon and Boom, and it's time we bring in our amazing casting duo, Mike and John. Hello, how are you both doing? You know what, John, I'm just gonna call you out. Which team are you potentially going for? I'm a little bit confused.
I would still lean towards Talon, but I gotta rep Boom because Gary's getting really mad at me, so I've got both of the jerseys on just to compensate for Mike having his packed away. I'd still lean Talon. I think it goes back to just going with his quirky Doom 1 Savage so as he can play it on the bleeding edge, and as long as Talon plays the same tempo the last time we saw this on RSG, Boom might not be ready for that playstyle here.
10
Yeah, I
seconds
don't know. I'm
remaining.
happy they choose Pos 1 Doom because they're against the real
5
competitor here
seconds
against
remaining.
Boom Esports. I don't think it's gonna work. I think Boom Esports came with a better draft. I don't have a jersey on, but we all know I'm going against John Expire, so Boom all the way.
I think John isn't for both here. Which side? Not Boom or Talon, but John or Mike? Pick.
Last time I went against Mike, I got embarrassed live on air, so I'll be with Mike here.
All right, good choice, good choice, Fia. Are you ready to be embarrassed or not?
No, I don't want to be embarrassed. But what does it mean to get embarrassed?
Means
Going
you're
against
wrong.
Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll go with Mike then.
All right, we're all in. Mike, the prediction has convinced us, but game one, let's jump into it, Mike and John.
You know what happens when everyone agrees with me, Jonathan Talon, game one. They've got this in the bag. You're welcome very much, John Expire. Still, it is MLP Dota and John Expires. Once again, Jonathan, this time around, you're biased for both teams, which is very good. I am hoping you change shirts during game number 2, Jonathan. We can't have you wearing the same shirt throughout the whole series, but how are you feeling, John? Pretty high matchup.
Yeah, it's a great way to close out the DPC, right? Last match to figure out who's number 1 in the region, who gets those bonus points. A little bit of extra prize pool as well. Before going into the major, it doesn't really shake any fact after that. Everyone's going to the major here. Boom Talon can secure, well, outside of visa issues, which is a different topic altogether, which I'm sure Zach is suddenly getting an anxiety attack from me mentioning, and Gary as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully that gets sorted, but this should be a close one, right? The last time we saw Boom and Talon go up against each other, Talon did take that one
Prepare
fairly
for
convincingly, but it feels like that was a different Boom as well, right? Like that was Boom still kind of trying
You're
to
a
figure things
trusty
out,
mate.
shaking off the issues they had at the major, and ever since then, Boom's just been on the up and up. Feels like they've managed to fix those issues they might have had, and they just look like that Boom that was dominating through Tour 1. So to see Talon up against that form of Boom, it's going to be very interesting and probably one of their tougher matches here for Talon.
I mean, it's so exciting, this matchup. Last time around, obviously, Talon actually took the series 2-1. You keep in mind, like, it's Makoto versus FBZ, Jackie versus Savage. You know, you've got all these friends in this game, or rather this series, and there's a lot on the line here between these two. Like, who was really right between Makoto and FBZ? And, of course, Jackie and Savage both getting T1 earlier, and, well, we know how T1 went.
30 seconds
mid
to
lane, going to
battle.
get a deep ward down already. I believe that was spotted, though. Talon, they should be well aware that that's happened, as Kips are already flying out between Makoto and FBZ, and to be fair, John, I think this is going to be happening quite a lot throughout this series.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to see. Again, that history between both teams. You know, Mikado and Hyde playing against their old friend in FBZ. Jackie and Savage haven't played against each other. Jackie and Q haven't played against each other.
Hyde, he might be in trouble. He went for the deep ward, but he's popping a fair bit of damage to the cookie. Gonna land perfectly, though. Hyde still running, but not running quick enough. Gem able to take first blood here in the Pulse 5 Snapfire. Obviously, a very strong start already for the side of Boom Esports. John, you know, another thing I have in mind as well. Like, this Pos 1 Doom, we watched it last time against RSG. Savage did a great job, farmed out of his mind, and they completely stomped RSG. I mentioned this earlier with the panel, but I really look forward to seeing whether Savage is going to be able to kind of pull off a similar performance here against a team like Boom Esports. The question in my mind is, can someone like Jackie, who we know is kind of famous for farming ridiculously fast, can he keep up with this dude?
I think he can. You know, it's a raid king. You can go into the jungle early on. You can just work it with your skeletons. It's down to Talon to kind of punish that playstyle, drop some really aggressive wards, and, you know, it'll limit that farming space for Jackie. Easier said than done. Jackie tends to just find a space to slip away in. And Jackie does have a really strong lane to kind of set up on the top as well, right? If you've got Great King along with a Snapfire, double stun lane with a cookie, it can be really hard for the side of Talon to get aggressive. They've got potential for toss backs down the line. Playing with a Spirit Siphon, level 3 for KP is going to be big. But the Great Kings are very tanky here to try and run down. And we've seen this with a pause for Tinies before. It can be a slower laning start. Q does go for the tree grab, so his right click harassment onto Scam was pretty nice, but that does mean you're kind of stalled out till maybe level 3 to really have any aggression with your own stuns in comparison to what Boom has.
That mid lane, Yopaj on the mid conquer against Makoto on the Ember. We always kind of say this, but it does feel like the matchup does favor the mid conquer over the Ember. Yeah, Makoto does do, because some games on the Ember he has brilliant performances, and other games we don't really see too much out of him. Against the Conquer though, what do you expect Makoto to be doing here?
I think he's just going to be looking to try to build that laning advantage, dance around what Yopaj wants to do. We already saw some of that come out. He did Sleight of Fist dodge Tiebreaker, not the easiest thing to do, but if you can be consistent about it, it cuts off the Kunkka's main harassment. I mean, he's still got the Torrent to play with, but landing onto an Ember is a little bit tougher, and control again is going to work. Level 6 timings as well. Probably going to be big, along with the initial itemization for that Orb of Corrosion we love to point out on the Ember. If that is something the Cutter will pick up, or whether or not he just rushes the face beats is another thing. But yeah, mid lane should be fairly stable though.
Yeah, bot lane, they're going to try and go with the Dispose. Savage already taking so much damage, and eventually they might just have enough. Meanwhile, top, or rather mid lane, Yopaj, he ends up going down completely solo to Makoto. And in the meantime, Savage, he actually ends up surviving. Sadly, John, even I didn't get to see how Yopaj died mid.
I think it's just down to a little bit of a surprise. Makoto hits level 4, goes for the chains, isolates Yopaj, and just runs him down. Going for a 1-1-2 build, which we don't see too often. And that is one way to get aggressive. Just jump on top of Kunkka. He does have the value point in X now that Yopaj hits 6, but the Ember does feel like it can reach a bit further without getting out of position. You know, you still rely a lot on that Tiebreaker for Yopaj's trade hits here.
Being very aggressive now, Makoto. Understanding he's going to have the XP advantage. He wants to press it as much as possible with Yopaj. Little torrent onto the Ember. Kind of give it back the way of Makoto, and again, Makoto will have a level advantage in just a moment. Once one more creep dies, we'll hit that level 5 mark. See if he can find any more kind of kills here on the Conquer. It's going to be that easy a second time, I don't think. Yeah, you have a support rotation.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
These supports won't be leaving the lanes anytime soon. 1-to-1 so far, very slight net worth lead the way of Talon. You do kind of expect Talon to maintain a net worth lead throughout this game 1 as well, John, because you do have a pos 1 dude, right? It's not quite an outcome, but you expect the advantage to remain the way of Talon throughout the game.
Admiral is on board.
Yeah, they should be able to just rack up the gold, get that farm they want on Savage. That should reflect in that net worth. I think Boom staying steady at, you know, just about 1k behind isn't too bad. It's not like this is one for the Boom starts to fall ahead up against Boom, so you should still be able to trade equally. This is a little bit of a slower start than I expected from Boom though. And we talked a little bit about this draft behind the scenes, right? Marcy Razor can be aggressive in the right circumstances. We've seen some attempts from Tim's. Hyde's been able to cut off quite nicely with Nightmare, trade back with Brain Sap. And Savage isn't really being contested. He's just allowed to build up. Gonna have phase boots up soon. Into the Midas he'll go with a soul ring. And at that point, you just can't stop. I mean, they can't punish that read. Like they just don't have that running start. And we've also seen Razors off to a slower start. It feels like if you don't get that BKB refresh timing on an offlane Razor fast enough, then the hero just kind of feels like it drops off.
It's going to be super problematic. Like, if Savage actually gets away with this Midas build-up and he is actually kind of able to abuse it throughout the game, it's going to be a massive issue. ZPZ, we're trying to go for a bit of a chase on Savage, but they really aren't able to get that much pressure going. Like, a bit of damage dealt, Savage, he'll be fine with that. He can just keep devouring creeps and hitting them. No problem. Nothing to stop him, even against the Razor. This top lane now, Skem might be in a spot of danger as the toss back. He's going to be out of the KP, but Skem, quick thinking, we'll get him out of this situation. Just TP's right out as soon as the toss is done. No secondary kill coming out yet, but got back to my point. If Savage really is able to abuse this Midas build-up, it's going to be a disastrous time for Boom, as they are going to try again. Tossing back Savage, this time will take a lot more damage from FBZ, but can they get the kill? Not quite. Savage, he's still going to be just fine to walk away and reset.
Scanning.
Just gets back, manages to, again, have the Devour off cooldown, so just gonna look for that farm. A bit of a rotation down mid is scanned out by Boom, so aggression coming out from Talon there. And they still managed to secure the power rune and just rune out from Mikado. We'll see if he decides to play with it. Does have his level 6 into 7 soon. This could be a good rotation opportunity for Mikado if he chooses to do so. Yopaj has had 6 as well for a while, but no mid rotations in. Both teams kind of focused in on the side lanes, especially Boom. It just seems like they're wanting to win out the lanes, get that initial farm on both FEZ and Jackie here.
Absolutely. Pretty tense game already. You kind of feel it between these two teams. Fighting over that first place spot for DPC 2 or 3. So it's like you mentioned, John, both teams are going to the major anyway, but you do want to be known as that first place team going into said major. Obviously, well, kind of like you mentioned as well, John, this isn't even where things really get started. I mean, the visas are going to be coming right after this one, so God only knows how that battle goes for these two teams, but see what does happen as bot lane. Yopaj going to go for a rotation with the TP up. They want to at least find hide out of this, but a nice nightmare. Eventually they will find the bane, no problem. Yopaj will take it.
Lower the
quite the kill you really wanted though for a TP rotation from the Kunkka, I'd say, John, but you take what you can get right now as Boom.
Yeah, you're happy enough finding something for Yopaj to snowball off of for Boom's sake. It does give a lot of free space for Mikado down mid, still finding a lot of farm on that Ember. And again, you are kind of evening out up top here for Jackie. He is still farming up really well, but KP's managed to pull ahead. And we're at that point where Q can be threatening on that Tiny.
Mikado is coming in to rotate to try and help out with the secondary killers. Jackie will go for a run deeper into the tree line. No TP's coming out yet, but they really just know that it's die like this. Pain's around, and it does seem like Jackie is set to fall. KP just runs him down with Q. Again, no TP's to come. They knew the Kunkka TP was on cooldown from that last rotation.
Dire's top tower
Nobody
is
else
under
can come in and
attack.
help out.
Dire's structures
Great
are
read
fortified.
out from Talon. Just get the rundown on that pause. One, slow down Jackie even further. He's had a bit of a rough start. In fact, both side lanes have had a rough start here for Boom in terms of net worth, even though they've kind of let the supports just camp those side lanes for a very long time in relation to how Talon supports have been moving. You are starting to build up on Talon's 3k lead, as you mentioned, Mike, to be expected when you have a Doom, but 3k is still a pretty good amount of gold. Savage is going to have a good timing on that Midas. Mikado's been very active on the Ember, is going straight up for the Maelstrom next. And for Boom, it does feel like they're going to have to play off the back of Yopaj. He's the one here that's managed to keep up in farm, managed to hit his EXP spikes really well. You would probably want to have a couple of kisses on your supports, though. It does feel like you especially want the kisses in this match, just to tie into that X-Torrent boat combo. Maybe get a little bit more value out for, say, AoE disposes here as well.
Advantage 9 minutes in. Like you've already said, John, Savage, he's having a very good time, and even better is currently Mikado on the Ember. I kind of talked about how he's kind of hot and cold when it comes to this hero, but this is just a fantastic start for Mikado. Top of the net worth board right ahead of Savage, and this Ember also going to be rather scary as he is going into the Maelstrom build. Plenty of damage to come out, I'm sure, once that's up, and he's going to have some decent timing on it. Meanwhile, top lane, Yopaj trying to find a target, will go after behind, but Mikado is going to be there to help out, and with the Nightmare, he does juke out the extract. Still, a nice team from Mikado. Yopaj is going to be happy to walk out of there. I can't say the same for Tims. He does get scattered up by Mikado as Tims tries to juke his way back towards the tier 1 tower. And it seems like they do get themselves out for now. But Talon, they are not backing off. They really want to set up for the top tier 1. And it seems as though Boom, they want to try and set up for a team fight. It's just a matter of can they actually take one.
Haste!
It's tougher, right? Like you only really have Boat and Torrent for your AoE hold, maybe a good Kisses, and again, maybe a good Dispose of multiple heroes if you can somehow find the angle here for Tim's. They see the Exo pop, they immediately back off. It's just not a fight that they can take. It's not a tower that will live long enough for them to use those spells. And that does mean a lot of commitment comes out from Boom to try to make that work. Really, especially here Yopaj, because you do want that quick BKB here on your Kunkka just to be able to stand in the middle. It doesn't feel like the BKB is going to fix all your issues though. You have to remember there is Doom and Fiend's Grip on Talon's end once they do get the levels into those spells. And that still makes short work of that spell immunity anyway. It's all about positioning here for Talon down the line. Still maintaining that 4K lead. No threat of a push out from Boom down bot either. Jackie clearing out some large camp stacks. Not the biggest stacks in the world, but definitely some catch part fun that he will need.
Has been
And
killed.
he's still really behind here, Mike. Still bottom network core. You talked about Jackie recovering a lot. It does take time. So it does feel like Boom will have to find a way to buy that time out now.
Well, this will be a true
Radiant's
test for Jack.
bottom
Can
tower
he
is
catch up
under
in a game
attack.
like this? Top lane KP gonna be in a spot of danger, but immediate TP away, and well, Tim's he already committed the dispose, so no way to cancel off the TP means that KP is gonna be just fine. Meanwhile, across the map, towards the bottom side, Skem and Yopaj, they are going to smoke up around Jackie, who does have Reincarnate, almost trying to bait for his team, but the only person they run into here is Hyde. Again, not the greatest off the space, but we will take whatever they get here first. We give another kill away to the Kunkka. But I think it's a great play from Hyde, just very nice positioning, protecting Savage all the time.
Dire's middle
This
tower
is not
is
the
under
kill they
attack.
want.
No. Savage is still farming up already. He has that Midas up. Mike has a lot of room in his own jungle to farm. There was a nice aggressive ward from Boom to spot that camping spot of Hyde, but they don't really have control on that jungle area itself. It's the central part. You plant a ward down now. Gonna have to check that out from Talon to see if they can spot that out with all the sentries they have on the ground. And that
Radiant's
does
bottom
at least
tower
allow
is
Boom
under
to start to
attack.
clump up bot, get a little bit of a shove in with the skeletons coming through from Jackie, not pushing in too hard though. We are still rotating heroes in. It does feel like that bot is being given away by Talon.
Radiant structures
So,
are
not
fortified.
necessary for the bodies to come in.
Step
We'll see
lively
if
now.
someone does
Your
dip in for
admiral
the
is on
defense here.
Radiant's bottom tower
I think it
is
just
under
favors
attack.
Talon though, right? Like they're happy to play the farm game for now. They've got a pos 1 Doom, they've got a pos 2 Ember. It is a rather greedy draft here from Talon. So you'd much rather take the time to farm. Wait for X's to
Dire's
back up
middle
and
tower
not
is
to
under
devil.
attack.
KP with the X's
Radiant's
is going
bottom
to pop
tower
at mid
has
lane and
fallen.
they can always just trade the mid tier 1 tower. It's much more valuable. And knowing how
Dire's
far Jackie
structures
is
are
behind right
fortified.
now on the Wraith King, shutting off the triangle of the Dire is going to be a massive issue for Boom if they let this mid tier 1 tower go. But now, though, it does survive as they do force the rotations here, Talon. But think about it, John. They're just buying so much time for the Savage to just keep that farm up. And it's a Midas Doom. He loves time.
Just wants to keep farming up anyway. To get aggressive onto Hyde, they don't manage to find the gap closing to take out even just the Bane. And Talon, with a timely backing off, managed to expand a fortification out from Boom. They don't lose anyone in that little shove in. They get back to farming on Mikado as well, who does have the full Maelstrom up. So you've got some great ways of dealing with, say, the skeleton summons of Jackie down the line. Boom still trying to clump around mid. For Boom, it does feel like this is the point where they can play around Yopaj. BKB's not quite done, but they at least have the Kisses up and Skem. So they've got a little bit more damage to just work some of those bigger cores down. Would be big if they catch someone that can combo out here.
They can find it. Savage not going to be able to keep down Torrent and the boat as Savage. He will just try to stand his ground. Eventually will drop. That's the kill Boom wanted. Well, Skem is going to go down in the meantime, but here comes the cavalry Boom. They want to keep the fight going. On the KP they go there with the death block. KP might just drop. It looks like he will. Jackie will take the kill, but now the beam trick of the FPV, but do not have the damage for him. Not quite yet. We'll toss him up, but it's not going to be enough. Back now, Q going a little bit too far forward. Will also be punished here at the time as Jackie gets a triple kill on the Wraith King. Oh, Talon, They were off to such a good start, John. 3 kills the way of the Wraith King. Look how much work he got out of that.
Step lively
Managed to overtake FZ and KP in that fort, and this alliance for Boom now to have that opportunity to push down mid. Talon just getting a bit too hasty, not expecting Boom to pump up, but again, this is when Boom's strong. They've got Kisses, they've got Torrent Boat, you're ready to run with FBZ with just the double Wraith Bands, and BKBs are just about to be finished. Both are Razor and our Kunkka just lacking the recipes. So you still have big timings for Boom to play around, and Talon has to be extra cautious with her positioning. That's where your heroes really shine. If you can get a good grip off from Hyde, if you can maybe try to jump in with Q on his blink, you can try to isolate and break up that team fight of Boom. Have a bit of an opportunity to really look for that mid here
though. Trade, and it will be. Yopaj does take the kill. Bad aside for Talon though is they do finally get that mid-tier 1 tower. You just start to ask yourself, is it a little bit too late for that? Jackie has caught up very nicely now on the Wraith King. He's not quite at the point he wants to be, but he's at a point now where he can escalate that farm as Hyde. He's going to get run down. Jackie wants to kill onto the base. Meanwhile, this side, they've got to do that onto the Kunkka. They might find Yopa. And a massive pick off here for Talon as well. Going for a bit more. Look, he's not going to be enough. Talon kind of giving it back the way of Boom now. 2-1. A favorable trade going the way of the Radiant.
And they're going to be feeling great. They did have to expend Doom there, but this does mean that Savage will just sit back, go back to farming with Midas, play with the Devour. Boom could have an opportunity, but it's Talon who goes for the smoke play immediately after here.
He's actually going to try and help out with this one. Stun is there onto Makoto, but I don't think he has the follow-up damage. In fact, now Hyde, he has the Fiend's Grip. They need help. They need to help this Wraith King out ASAP here, John. Jackie's going to run. Maybe around, but there's your Fiend's Grip. They take him out easily. No mana left on the Wraith King, so no reincarnation to come.
And it just ends up favoring Talon after a little bit of a tumble in that earlier fight. They find the angle up against Boom. They manage to split them apart. Boom, not quite sticking together there. I mean, obviously they're just trying to find farm in some spots.
Apologies, John. I didn't realize. Jackie was 18 mana short. That was a really smart play from Hyde. He used the Fiend's Grip, drained 5% of his mana, and got to the point where he was, what was it, 12 mana short? 18 mana short for the reincarnation. Very clever there from Hyde, as now FBZ mid lane. He's gonna take this up, but it's not gonna help, I'm sure. Fulfilled. A little bit more intense now. Moser's gonna be there on the Savage. They will rush it. BKB's up, but it may not matter. The damage output just way too high. As KP gonna go for a BKB TP out, but won't make it either. Oh, what a back and forth game already here between these two.
Radiant's middle tower
advantage the way of Talon, but Boom Esports, they are giving it right back.
Radiant's middle
That's
tower
huge.
has fallen.
Waste the fresh BKBs coming out from Talon. Managed to not really extend anything big outside of
Dire's
the
top
unleash
tower
on
is under
Tims.
attack.
And they managed to equalize the map with a mid-tier 1 taking away. So now Jackie's much safer playing that bot jungle. There are wards watching him around the area, but it's not the biggest vision
Dire's
game in the world
top
here
tower is
from
under
Talon.
attack.
And we can start reeling it in with a Wraith King eventually, as long as Jackie keeps this farm pace up. Desolator coming out soon. Mikado though.
Start going in with chains, but not quite reach into the sleight of fist to be able to land said chains. Talon just going to take a bit of time to relax and reset themselves. Keep in mind, it feels like Makoto has been farming quite heavily here on the Ember, but he wants to get to a point where he has his BKB up before he gets involved with these fights. We haven't really seen too much of it in these recent team fights, so to be fair. But I suppose once he does have the BKB up, he can move in a lot more confidently against the Kunkka. But now, though, it just seems like the Ember's not getting involved.
Yeah, and he's been skirmishing here and there when it comes to full commitment inside, as we tend to see Yopaj, dive in really deep, put his body on the line. Mikado's been a lot more cautious,
Radiant's
just
bottom
because he needs that
tower is under
protection. He
attack.
understands that they're going to need to
are
try
scanning.
to reel in as much as gold as possible in every core to have that same scaling. Boom, though, trying for a smooth play here.
But look at Hyde. He just has perfect positioning on the Bane. Even if using the Shadow Amulet, he knows they're around somewhere. And Boom, they see him. They just can't move in because they do not want the +5 Bane. Hyde's playing this very well for Talon. His positioning's just been perfect so far.
He's just been able to give the info every time. Again, it just goes back to what Talon likes to call high. They like calling him the Giga Chad, just cutting off smokes, dying for the team, doesn't mind, doesn't care. Boom, not dissuaded too much though. They are not at a huge net worth deficit. 1k lead for Talon, it's not all that big. BKB's out.
Okay, then for a nice time there, but it's quite fine. The way Talon are grouped up, it does seem like they want to fight, but John, look at the Wraith King farm. Jackie's pretty much on par with Savage now. He's against the Midas Doom, but he's on par in terms of network. Only 50 gold behind.
Invisibility.
They find the Kunkka. That'll break the smoke. Yopaj is just fine to walk out of there. Talon, do they really want this fight? Jackie's moving in to help out the team if they need it. They have a Deso on the Wraith King if they do get into that fight, and Talon, I don't think this is a fight they can afford to take.
Your admiral is on board.
It just seems a little bit too rushed, a little bit too desperate here for Talon. I think it's best to probably reset and just try to smoke again a bit later on. Maybe even force a Roshan, but now boom. They want to smoke through their own turf. Talon, they're coming in right from the backside here, but who do they aim? Boom are being very patient as Hyde. He will break the smoke once again, but Yopaj won't go for an X yet. He's just so careful not to give the opening to the other team.
Radiant structures are
It's all about initiation here. They'll see Jackie farming, but they know they can't go after the Wraith King yet. In fact, now a blink coming out on Jackie, so he can initiate for his team if he does want to. It's just on the courier for now, and it does seem like Talon, they are going to back off and wait for another day.
Radiant are scanning.
Play patient to get good value out of their ward, immediately taken out by Boom after their smoke break on Jackie and the Hydron gets figured out. And just leads to an equilibrium state once more of just farming. It does feel like this starts to favor Boom. As you mentioned, Jackie is hitting this point on the Wraith King where it becomes really hard to fight up against this. Doom against Wraith King isn't a great matchup. You don't want to Doom the Wraith King, you want to Doom everyone else. The 2 lives of Jackie should go off without the hitch as long as Hyde is able to get a full duration Fiend's Grip off, so you're pretty confident in just getting the Incarnation off every single time. Again, you've just managed to hit those BKB timings on FBZ, on Yopaj. We haven't even seen them use those fresh charges up. This team fight still feels like they have lots to play with on Cone's end. And eventually you'll hit that refresh, you'll hit that sheep stick timing here though.
Skip for break the smoke with Jackie, gonna jump right in. That last looks sunny over, they got the air. Dragon back to the Nightmare. Staying behind. He's the top immediately. KB will get locked down here. He's forced that again around the soul lining up. He does drop, however, as Jackie going for a bit more now. One Savage to Makoto. He'll find Kemper now. Savage. He's trapped up. Mortimer Dip is flying in. The Talon connects as well, but Doom is gone. But Q, he jumps in himself. Now the Fiend's behind. Holding down Yopaj, but it's not quite enough. He's going to die back immediately as now Makoto. Trying to keep the fight going. They have knocked down the first life of Jackie. They jump right back in. Onto the Tiny. Onto his previous teammate. Wanting another kill and does find it. An ultra kill for Jackie now. Just 1 kill away from the Rampage.
Radiant's
Sadly,
middle
FBZ's
tower
not
is
around,
under
John. Otherwise,
attack.
he probably could have stolen said Rampage had it been available. But Makoto, he's full HP. He's going to back out of there. And now it's 11 to 16. 1k advantage the way of Boom. Jackie, he's skyrocketing in net worth now, John. I think Talon, they're starting to get into a bit of trouble.
Yeah, they can't deal with the physical output of Boom. They have so much minus armor with that Desolator, with a Static Storm, the Eye of the Storm just running through them, just providing even more minus armor for them to crit through, and they're not super durable yet on Savage. Like, the BKB fades, the magic damage rips right through, and he doesn't have too much bonus armor on hand, at least not until his casual plate mill comes in. Boom could still play aggressive here.
Oh, the skeletons! The skeletons! Are they going to get vicious? KP, meanwhile, mid lane does actually end up dropping Yopaj. Able to secure the kill on Boom. Really
Radiant's top
starting to run
tower
us,
is
but it
under
seems like
attack.
people are trying for Roshan. He's offered available for 35. It'll be a very free Roshan to go the way of Full Beast Force. But quite frankly, the only person who can try for a steal is either Q or Makoto, and it does feel like it would just be suicide, quite frankly.
Are scanning.
They are still grouping up.
Radiant's
they are going to
top
try and at
tower
least
is
slow this
under
down a little
attack.
bit, but Roshan already so low. Standing out for a seat. The ball is going out immediately. FBZ wants a chase now. Tim's, he'll be there as well with the Nightmare. Going to put a stop to it as high. Still trying to run, but Jackie is on the chase with the stun, but not going to throw it out. He's just not within range.
Radiant's top
Boom,
tower
they got
is
the
under
Aegis up.
attack.
They'll hand it over to the Kunkka. And now, even with the moving, he's got right jump He's burning alive as he does the best thing for the scare. And FBZ brings down KP here on the death prophet. But KP, he looks the man up with the exorcism back on the Kunkka. Meanwhile, this could be a tieback for the Master, but no, he jumps out with the cookie. Back in onto KP again, but Mikado and Q right in onto the Master. Do take him down for a tieback. Again, running right to Yopash, but he does get taken down, and so does FBZ. They don't quite get the Aegis, John, but they just got everything else. All 4 other heroes on Boom going down. Oh, this game, it's just such a
Dire's
close
bottom
affair
tower
between these
is
two.
under attack.
Yeah, it's neck to neck. They managed to find the 2 lives of Jackie, take him out, and just clean up afterwards. Once you remove that Raid King, a lot of the damage does feel like it dissipates. Grazier's still a massive threat up front, but there's no one to really feed off of that Eye of the Storm minus armor. You don't have the Deathbreaker to stack up on top. You don't have those massive crits that Raid King can provide. And Talon make the best out of a pretty rough situation. Aegis still stands here for Yopash. You can't quite push into an objective without the EXO up. Managed to stop Boom from going for their own objectives. Tier 1 tower still stands. That entire move was the defense of that objective, and Boom weren't able to put a dent in it. So Talon can just, again, go back to farming themselves, get that build up, go into the Shivas here
Dire's middle
for
tower
Savage.
is under attack.
That should help with some of the armor issues he's facing, help to slow down Boom when they want to chase down that Doom. And Mikado is almost at his Ags here left. Just 600 gold away. Once that Ember Ags is up, locking in Mikado becomes even tougher. We've seen it already. Kind of a struggle to just bursting down that hold window. With the Ags, Mikado's going to be free to be even more aggressive and just try to find those opportunities for Talon if Boom aren't careful.
Oh, we talk about it every time, John. The Ember Ags is really where things get very fun, and Mikado, I'm sure,
Radiant's
is
bottom tower
gonna
is
have
under
a lot of fun
attack.
this game, number 1.
Dire structures
Bot
are
lane, though.
fortified.
Defense maybe in very soon as Boom. And unfortunately to push in. He's only, no, in fact, he's brought the whole axe out. They could go for the fight. He has the fight for Biceps now. It could be a bit of a scary fight considering they don't know the hex is available.
Radiant's
Especially
bottom
for
tower
Mikado.
is under attack.
He doesn't have that BKB up.
Radiant's
It'll
bottom
be
tower
very
has
detrimental for the
fallen.
Ember Spirit. They will get the bottom tier 2, but Talon, they have vision around this area. They could try to force a fight. It'll be a very good one, but they've got the low ground for now. But how you jump in? He might go for a close, but no, line up with the Ember from the scare. Shut melted down the Sapphire. One down already here for Talon. They rush on the attack. Here comes the firebacks. The Sapphire wanting to come back into this fight, but Talon, they have backed off. That's all they wanted. They got more than enough out of this.
Now. Your admiral is on board.
It's going to be a counter smoke now. Boom. They committed a buyback, so they want to force a fight. Problem is, Skem cancelled his TP to the outpost, so he's going to have to just walk the old-fashioned way.
Radiant
While
are
Boom, they
scanning.
try to find themselves a straggler. Nobody's really around right now. Unless Makoto, go Taj. No, they see him. They know he's there somewhere. Makoto, he will get hexed up. Exposes there as well, but can they hold him down? The toss away, but the boat is still going to connect. Is it enough though? The might to help out, but it's not going to be there. Makoto goes down.
Radiant's middle tower
First death
is
on
under
the game
attack.
for the Ember. And all the gold going back the way of Jackie.
And that's the opening Boom wants. They know BKBs were down. That's what the other that's not quick. Talon had to commit a
middle
lot
tower
just to
has fallen.
find that buyback on Skem.
The Ember has no buyback. They're moving in. Doom is out. They might find the first one of champion eventually. He does end up dying. But without 2 heroes with no buybacks available, Boom Esports.
Radiant's
They
middle
right after
tower
mid
is
racks
under
here.
attack.
Nothing to stop them.
Step lively.
Talon, they will try to chip away at Boom, but eventually they may just realize they don't have the Ember
Radiant's
buyback.
middle tower has fallen.
Refresher orb available as well on FBZ. A bit more utility here for the Razor, but Boom, no, they're not feeling confident. Even with the Aegis up on your Page, it's going to expire in 5 seconds. They won't risk anything. Respect Talon and they'll just back their way out for now.
Radiant's top tower
It
is
is
under
seemingly
attack.
a bit of a missed opportunity
Radiant's
for
top
Boom,
tower
John.
has fallen.
Maybe 100% not realizing the Ember actually just has no way back into the game for now.
I think that's respectable from Boom though. They play it safe. They don't want to overextend. We've seen situations before where Boom are
Radiant's
fully
top
aggressive. They're
tower
much
is
more
under
disciplined. They
attack.
go for other objectives.
Radiant
They just go for the tier 2
structures are
top, start to
fortified.
take control of that triangle. Talon still don't have an avenue to force this fight
Step
outside.
lively now.
Mikado
Your
is
admiral
back
is on
up.
board.
Could try something. DD is on Doomsend though. Roshan's still a ways off, but double damage coming out
Dire's
onto
bottom tower
Yopaj
is
is going to
under
be pretty
attack.
damn big here.
That's gonna hurt. The Tidebringer. Share all that damage between Talon and Savage. He can't afford to die right now. Not the Doom. Be okay for now. Had the BKB available just in case he needed it. Like Jackie maybe just trying to force the BKB out for the tier 2 top tower push. Boom once again, very disciplined. You back off. They realize they don't have that great of a net worth lead right now, and I'd still say ultimately the scaling of Boom is just going to be better when you compare drafts in comparison to say Talon. With a POS 1 Doom, you kind of rely on the net worth advantage earlier on than now. So it's not 100% said and done at all for Talon. They've still got a very good chance of pulling off this win as well. Does seem like slow. Wait for the others to try and make a mistake.
When you've got such closely matched teams, you don't want to be the team that gives that opportunity away.
Dire are scanning.
Might play it safe. They are going aggressive now in Doomsend though.
Jackie, the Minecraft. You? Find their target, but they do at least force Talon back towards the base. He is gonna melt. Meanwhile, Makoto trying to chase down the idol. The Kunta is probably still fighting versus the rival, but not quite. He does go down as MVP. He finds another. Now Makoto, though, how much can he get done? Do find Scam. The Ember at least clears out 3 heroes as Jackie is gonna show up. He won't catch the Ember, but he might have a chance at the Tiny. He is eventually
Dire's
gonna
turret
have to
has
the
been
sun.
killed.
Nice flick away though, and he's actually gone. Very nice mechanics there from Q to get himself out of that. Very, very clutch. And that was actually a great team fight for Talon.
They managed to get some great punishment off. They don't lose Savage. They take out Yopaj. They get a good angle for the team out from Savage here. Just locking in Yopaj, preventing him from using the sacrifice, from getting any impact out from his BKB. And then they just run down with Makoto afterwards. They still have no clear answers for, say, FBZ's Razor or Jackie's Raid King. They're still a big menace up front, but it seems like for now, Talon's play is to just ignore them. They're not quite set to do damage onto those heroes. Maybe by the time you have Refresh Doom and perhaps that Infernal Blade Shard, you can start to get to work onto something, especially something like a Raid King. In some of these prolonged fights, it's going to take some time for that build-up. And just kind of go with what's soft, go with what's still a little bit more exposed in that Kunkka, who's still really susceptible to that Doom. Because Kunkka is going to need to get the boat off. If the boat doesn't fly out, that durability of Boom that we've seen, it's not as oppressive for Talon to play up against.
Still a very slight net worth lead for the Boom John. Only 1k. Farming on Jackie. You see Savage, he is trying to build up towards the pressure wall very, very soon as Jackie. Will get chained up here by Makoto, but the D wards off here in the Radiant Triangle. Maybe once you have the Refresher Orb up on the Doom, he's going to be a hell of a lot scarier just moving 2 heroes spread off the bat. Still Talon, they aren't going to wait around for that. They are going to smoke up as 5 heroes and try to make a rotation back into their own triangle. Exorcism is back up in 8 seconds, but again, KP, last time around, he did melt. This time, though, it might be Boom melting. John as Makoto is going to find a double damage room himself on the Ember. The last time around, you had the Tidebringer hit some double damage. This time, Makoto with the Sleight of Fist. And he's at that level 25 mark as well, so he does have 2 charges of said Sleight of Fist.
Radiant's top tower is under
It's going to
attack.
be all about this second Roshan. Talon, they do prepare on the high ground of the Dire Jungle, and Boom Esports will do the exact same thing across the map on the Radiant Triangle.
Dire's middle tower is
Question
under
is, who
attack.
starts Roshan first?
Both sides are kind
Radiant's
of
top
camped out for
tower
it.
is under attack.
They have told
Radiant
Roshan to
are
take Rosh
scanning.
number 2 with the free shards. You need that secondary left
Radiant's
for
top tower
Boom to start to
is
find
falling.
high ground. They do find a free tier 2 for their trouble, so they're getting a little bit more off the map in comparison to what
Dire's
Talon can do, and they've
turret has
always
been
got the
killed.
X TP play to
Radiant's
just farm,
top tower is under
take some
attack.
side lanes, get some pressure off from the side of Boom. They have that slight net worth lead. Jackie, as you mentioned, Mike, number 1 has managed to skyrocket after a very rough early game here, as we expect at this point from Jackie. Talon, for their part, do have things up on Mikado. So he's protected going in. He doesn't have to be scared of the disposes out. And it does feel like Boom's been playing off the back of Tim's with his blink.
Radiant's
My
top
man
tower
smoke up
is under
Talon, but
attack.
Boom, they're just going to force the high
Radiant
ground. They
structures
want to force
are
everyone back to the base here from Talon.
Dire
It's
are
a smart play
scanning.
from Boom, because now they'll go for a counter smoke right into Roshan. The scan is there. They seem to believe Talon's around the Roshan pit, and they would be correct in assuming so. Hyde's doing a good job of ruining that scan, though. As Boom, they are going to blink into the Roshan pit, but we'll realize nobody around. So both teams kind of reading each other's minds. No smoke being broken yet. Talon, they're having a look around for a straggler from Boom, but nobody around here. They'll just clear out the creep wave instead. And the
Stand
mind game
lively
between
now.
these two.
Your admiral is on
It was a nice bait play from Boom. Talon, though, they read their movement.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And both sides just kind of trade spots. Boom, start to take that jungle ramp. But they are starting to push into the high ground of the triangle once more.
What do you do first, John? Jackie, already quite low on the range keeper. Do they have the damage output for him? Savage will jump in with the X-Back from the idol, protecting the range keeper down, but KB still gonna charge him, but no Jackie. He mans up, what a king of Jack, still surviving, right back in Jackie. He does take down Savage before he ends up dying himself. Oh, it's Hyde. Ends up going
Swept
down
you
as
off
well.
your feet.
A 4-for-2 trade, but it really should not have been that way for Talon. How close were they to killing off
Step
Jackie that
lively
whole
now.
time?
Your admiral
But
is
he
on
takes
board.
down KP and he takes down Savage right before he ends up going down.
The damage output from Boom is just still way too high. The minus armor still
Dire's
racks up.
bottom tower is
Just
under
been the
attack.
consistent issue for KP in this game. He doesn't stay alive long enough. He has the BKB, he has a plate mail.
Radiant's
Still not
middle
enough
barracks are
durability for
under
him to
attack.
apply any effort.
Dire's
And when
bottom
Talon tries to
tower is
re-engage
under
with
attack.
Savage, he blinks on top right as Q is
Dire's
getting the
bottom
toss off, so
tower has
Savage just
fallen.
gets tossed in the air
Radiant's middle
instead. No
barracks are
control
under
coming out
attack.
from Q and
Dire's
re-engage.
top tower is
Get the
under attack.
opportunity to take that mid set of racks. All set of racks kind of open for
Radiant's
the taking.
middle
They could
barracks
try
has
some
fallen.
tier 3
Radiant's
plays if
middle
they wanted to.
barracks has
But
fallen.
Boom will go for the safe play. They've got that opening for Roshan. They know the Talon's not going to be buying back. There's no buyback on Mikado when he did jump in. Mikado's just been having a rough time. Even with the Lincolns, he's not been able to get these BKB off in these last few fights. And Boom has just been able to chain stun really well, and it's a very tough game for Savage to figure out who roots on Boom. Because if you doom the Razor after he's already used Eye of the Storm and BKB at least one time, you're still pretty satisfied, along with a static Lincoln zone. It still feels like Konka could be your big choice, but how do you handle the Raid King? It's just not a favorable matchup for Savage to play into. They've got to kind of skirmish around here, and Talon's been trying to dance around very hard, jumping in and out with the Ember, getting a blink angle for Savage, getting some tossbacks here with
Radiant
Q,
are
and
scanning.
generally just having KP die in the front line for them. But it's so hard to pull off in comparison to what Boom has to do. They just run up, and sure Jackie can get hits off, and ensure that the Eye of the Storm is running through, and maybe get the Hex off on Mikado, and you're kind of set.
Both teams again, John. The second Roshan, it's still knocked down. Both
Step
teams are
lively
waiting,
now.
and
Your
even
admiral
with
is
one
on
Rax
board.
down here, Talon, if they can take this Roshan for themselves, it's going to be a great way to try and come back into this game. Problem is, how do you take it? Really does go back to Savages having a very rough time scaling on this Pos 1 Doom, and without the refresher or buff, you've really got to be quite careful about who you target. In every team fight we do see Savage, he's looking around for the Konka. He wants Japoi, but Yopaj, realizing this, does stay away and build up into his own Lincoln Sphere. It can get very hard for Savage to find the target he truly wants, and was that last team fight just being forced to doom FBZ, but that's just not it. The Razor does not care.
Regeneration!
Jackie will start Roshan now. Talon, they've got to find a good way to fight this. Q, they can start the fight with a toss back on Jackie if he truly wants to. Obviously, Jackie has 2 lines and a BKB available. So just keep scouting out for now. Deploy, makes the Legion onto the Ember, into the distance. Makoto, on the side. He gets the BKB off his side. He's still Talon. He's too early. He might come back on for Savage. He's trying. Boom is down. Process means even Savage. And he keeps them out. Oh, he's shooting them out for now. The Doom is still flying. Jackie, go back out of there, and Yopant, he's the one to drop on the Conker. Makoto, there's so much damage being dealt here from the Ember. Talon, do they go for Roshan?
They get the refresh off from Savage, immediate refresh to have the Doom on ready here, along with the BKB use. It does feel like they need a little bit of a reset. You're not the healthiest mana-wise here from Mikado, so spamming out, it's not going to be as easy. Only 3 charges on the Remnants, no BKB for 40 seconds, so it is more than likely they'll just play it safe. They've gotten the buybacks on Boom supports. Both Scam and Tims want to get back into that fight. But Talon will go for that smoke play angle anyway. Again, they've got Doom off cooldown here with a refresh.
Jackie with only 1 life is more susceptible. Makoto, he'll go for the chase. Down is right behind him. They've got the raging. Down and take him out. Oh, Talon, here we go, John. They're onto a comeback in game 1. They're feeling confident. Boom Esports. Well, they're going to start paying a bit more respect, I think, to Talon, John. So I think the second Roshan should go the way of the Radiant.
And they've got the angle to take it. It's still only, again, Rosh number 2, so it doesn't have the full complement that Roshan can give. No chain, no refresh shard, no Ag's blessing on hand. Still just the secondary life might be enough to also start to find more objectives onto the high ground and try to equalize the map. No buyback in FBZ. They don't want to extend the buyback here on Jackie. They're gonna have to just surrender that Roshan. And just when you see these fights break out, Mike, Talon have to work extra hard to find. If they just see the supports isolated, that's an opportunity. They have to kind of play this pick-and-run style, make sure on a sort of Doom clump initially, get their BKB usage just right, find the perfect Doom target from Savage. He's been making great use of his War Stomps as well. And we're kind of at the point where Doom's output with Infernal Blade shards, it's actually pretty painful for stretch force, especially something like the Raid King. Even the Kunkka doesn't enjoy all that percent burn damage. So you don't have that big of a damage issue in Talon. It's still all about dancing around. And for the benefit of Talon, Mikado's been doing a great job of dancing. He's got that refresh on hand now. He's going to have a lot of remnants to toss out, double BKB use, maybe even a secondary Linken's usage if he wants to think about it that way. And he's just been carrying this team, right? Like we heard the panel, I think it was Fear who pointed out, you don't have a great scaling carry on Talon. That's all really down to Mikado. He's been delivering this game.
He is, John. Mikado doing a great job, and now with 10 remnants available with the refresher orb, we know how fast he can blow somebody up. A ridiculous amount of damage, and with a quick Australian math here, John, that's about 3k damage with 10 remnants. We'll take pretty damn good amount here for Makoto. See what they can get done though with that is they have a 7k net worth lead now. Not that net worth lead matters anymore, but if we can have a look at the Dota plus graph, John, it's just shot right up. I mean, it's not looking too good for Boom. It's just not a pretty sight whatsoever. It's now Makoto. Look at this. How confident can this man be? He'll jump in again. Where's he going though? Around the world with the hexes down. Has he gone too far? They'll set him up with a nice pass. Saves the day. Jackie, we're going to try and go for a chase, but Makoto still moving right back in with a double chase now. Playing FTC, wanting the range on Savage. He goes on to Joe Point, but the point's fine for now. Makoto will jump back out and KP will jump back in. Goals being used up and BKB's being committed, but nobody drops yet. Everyone very tanky at the moment. Talon, even with the Aegis up, they just don't find the target they really wanted. They kind of run out of remnants there on Makoto. You just kind of wait for the recharge to be there on said remnants and just go back in later.
did manage to force some resources out from Boom here, Mike. FBZ had to pop refresh, had to use the secondary BKB. So you don't have double BKB coming out in the next 2 minutes. It's a bit of a window for Talon if they do want to play aggressive. It's as you said though, probably just gonna wait for Mikado's charges to build back up. Use this time to keep the farm game up. They're working onto a Hex on Savage here as well. So even more lockdown for the
Dire's
Doom
bottom
then able
tower is
Mikado
under
to play
attack.
around. And again, it's all about Mikado. We see how much they're willing to do to just save that Ember. Q jumps in, has the on this, tosses back, prevent that Hex from becoming disastrous for Talon, saving the Aegis in the process. Still 2 minutes for Talon to play with that Aegis here, as even KP's managed to find a couple of items up. He's managed to overtake FBZ. I mean, you think about how many times KP's been dying in the front lines. He managed to recover pretty well. Lincoln's up now, along with the Load Sword to protect. So even our Death Prophet now can apply some more utility onto Mikado and just pile onto the Ember. Boom. And they're not really out of this game. They've got a Rax advantage. 7k lead, as you said here, Mike. It doesn't mean too much. Jackie's still farming like a madman. Swift Blink on hand. They just need to find a way to isolate Mikado and kill him off.
Your admiral is on
Yeah,
board.
it's just such a close match, John. It really doesn't feel like it matters anymore, but Talon doing such a fantastic job as the refresh orb up and available on Yopaj. You know what that means, John? I think the man needs an Aghanim Scepter upgrade for that beautiful Torrent Storm. Nothing like a double Torrent Storm in the middle of a team fight to completely screw off the other team. But you might wait for Roshan for that aspect. It's going to be up in quite a while. 4 minutes till we find out when the next Rosh is available. Of course, the Aegis is still available on Makoto for now for another minute. Yeah, it feels like Boom have to be so much more careful about how they force these fights. You've really got to try and either get Makoto quickly or take down Hyde or Q first. I mean, there's no question about it. If you can't find Makoto, it's probably not worth taking the fight. And I'd say the same for Hyde and the Bane. Like, you just don't want to let this man being stripped from a mile away and just forget about it. You can't do that.
Radiant's
Just
bottom
can't let it
tower
happen.
is under attack.
TPs are forced out from the shove in from Boom down
Dire's
bot.
top
That
tower
does
is under
kind of
attack.
declump Talon for a moment, not wanting to lose an additional set of racks. It is a
Dire's
double siege creep
structures are
wave.
fortified.
Got the supper with it. Fortify does stall this
Welcome
process out.
back.
They're getting some good damage off, but not really looking to commit to Boom. They just work the jungle, get that farm build up. They're going to work into FBZ's Ags with a refresh. Double Eye of the Storm can end this game really
Radiant are
fast.
scanning.
Boom's still got a lot of good angles left here, Mike Talon. It does still feel like they've got to be careful considering your racks down still.
Lane, this will be where the fight breaks out, John. You see Makoto on the creep wave as the Aegis does expire. And Jackie will show himself, trying to bait Talon forward. Move yet though, they're completely blind here, Talon, so they'll have to wrap around the other way. Find an opening that suits them. Now mid lane, Savage, Light Device is out. They will block with the Lincoln. Savage now to be finding Makoto. Right in, just scouting out for his team and Q. With the empty avalanche pop on FBZ. Makoto, he just keeps going on the Ember. He does not give a crap at FBZ. Rains some damage away from the Ember Spirit. Meanwhile, Jackie has found Hyde on the Bane. That's one down. But can they find any more? Makoto still around but deployed, trying to get a side to myself. Into the side, but now they down to double the eye of the sword. He's gone. Oh, he's trying to save the Ember, and he does do so. He costs his own life. Can they find Jackie at least? It doesn't seem like it. He's on the run. He's that fire. He's walking in the run. He's trying to work like a Jackie. In a second, he's tripped his in. Jackie needs some help. Gotta keep holding him down into a double here now. Jackie, he's got no way to survive. Now Savage, right onto FBZ, takes down another. Yopaj, he is forced to run the Conquer. He cannot keep the fight going. They do commit buybacks for that fight, Talon, but I think it's well worth it.
They managed to find a lot of big kills. Savage doesn't want to be caught out here. Oh boy.
Oh. Find the Vice, Savage. That's a dieback, Savage. That's a dieback, sir.
Now that
Yeah.
was a failed ball.
Goes a bit too far forward, tries to farm, and boom. They still lack their 2 cores, but you know they didn't buy back. They didn't have any need to buy back in that pick off. And Talon are going to find themselves on a bit of a back foot here. They still have the buyback in Mikado at the least. but they can't take any objectives off the back of that fight. They can't force mid. They can't think about Roshan. It's going to be... If they're unfortunate here on the respawn timing for Talon, Boom has a clear advantage into the Rosh with how much more time Savage will take to respawn. And Boom can start trying to tie out this game. Still have that Ags build up here for FBZ lined up. Have the Orchid into Bloodthorn, looks like here for Jackie down the line. Just more control to deal with the Ember. And Mikado, it's still really hard to find those angles, right? Like, to work out these fights for the Ember is just very, very difficult. Kai and Sanj up, so a little bit less control coming out to the stat resist at very least. Maybe giving Mikado a window to dodge out, pop his BKB, and just bail out in a bad fight. But these fights feel easier for Boom to pull off. And speaking of unfortunate, Roche is just immediately up. Like 50 seconds where Savage isn't up, Boom could try to go into that pit here.
Have a quick pause out, which gives us time to talk about the state of the game, John. And I realize you've already kind of been doing that, but we're 50.5 minutes in now, Jonathan. I'm not going to say what that means, because every time we say it, it never happens. But, you know, maybe 9.5 minutes away from something special happening. Still, Talon in the lead, 5k net worth lead their way. The win probability, though, I mean, it's like 47% to 53%. Barely favoring Boom Esports. That's how close this game is right now. It's just really hard to know who has the big lead. But I'd say as time goes on, like, Makoto's about to hit level 30 now. He even buys the tune-up for himself. It's going to be rather scary. Like an extra chains target, the minus remnant charge time, it's just going to be very annoying for Boom to deal with, because Makoto's just going to be able to do whatever he wants. And you're getting to that territory as well as the Ember, where you start to consider Divine Rapier, right? Like you're starting to think, do I need that extra damage? It is very late into the game. Makoto's only died twice this game. What do you think of that? Divine's even in consideration here.
It doesn't feel completely necessary. I think it's all just down to play. Whether or not you can play the way they want to, or down to the way they want to. Way more spells to spam out here. They hand it over to Yopanj, of course. Refresh orb plus the shard on hand. It does have enough to buy out that Ags you're talking about here, Mike. So double, triple, Torrent Storm could be big if Yopanj does want to jump into it. And the high ground path is very clear for Boom. They're already 1 racks up. Side lanes are kind of open with only the tier trees to stand. And you're still in a very scary position where Savage doesn't have buyback for 4.5 minutes. So a massive window for Boom to just play.
They're moving right in, down towards that bot lane. They love Makoto. He does have buyback, but they'd love to try and force it before the next high ground attempt. So far, nobody being found out here from Talon. They do back off at the right moment and just rely on the Ember to get that push going. Even a Bloodthorn being built up here by Jackie now, just wanting that extra utility. And speaking of the devil, Jackie gonna jump right in onto Makoto, but he's by himself. Still, the side of Talon are the ones to back out. They assumed Jackie had his whole team behind him, but he had nobody. He was literally on his own.
They're close by enough. You see how quick that response is from Boom. That would have been a very drawn-out fight to deal with 2 lives in Jackie. So just play it safe, back off, knowing that Boom's probably got an angle back in, and just play for high ground. They can't afford to take this massive risk here on Talon's end. And backs are against the wall. Network lead that they had doesn't really mean much at 53 minutes in, and it's just so much easier to execute here for Boom. And they just jump in, ensure Jackie's unable to find a way to lock in Mikado. You don't really worry about Doom. Double Doom is still big, but it's not the biggest deal in the world if you play your cards right on Doom's end. They're being very patient. They've got Aegis. They don't want to rush things. They want to get the right items up, get the right situation going for their side. Just work the lanes. They don't quite have buyback on FEZ and Tim, since Skems is still on cooldown. So maybe just try to build up to that point, but they're keeping every lane in. They're keeping Talon onto the high ground. They can't really play this farming game right now in Talon's end.
Almost 54 minutes in now. Yopanj, he wants the Ags, but he wants the Ags blessing with it. He doesn't want to have the Aghanim Scepter in his item slot, and that's fair enough. It's It's not going to be that easy to just chip away slowly here for Boom, as they might sacrifice FPZ if they're not too careful. Keep in mind, he does have the Aegis up on the Razor, but you'd much rather not give it away if you can avoid it. Talon's still in great contention here to try and pull off this game on victory, as they will see Jackie. He's going to jump in and toss him back into the team of Jackie. He'll get his BKB off immediately. Fortunately, Aeon disc proc
Radiant's top tower is
without
under
the
attack.
BKB, I doubt Boom wants to fight. So back off and hold the high ground of the Radiant Triangle once again. And that should ensure Talon is safe to save the next 70 seconds while the BKB's on cooldown. I highly doubt Boom will go in.
Gold is a
Just
great
buy more
conductor.
time, try to chip away at that Aegis time here for FVC. Only about a minute and a half left on that Razor's secondary life. Talon, their options are growing limited though, Mike. They can't make any forays outside of their base. Full blood points up for Jackie. More damage coming through from him, more control coming out as well. Yeah, there's not much to do. Just high five, pass the time, hold the high ground, rinse and repeat, and wait for an opening.
Yeah. Gotta high five sometime. Speaking of high five, John, I had a game today. I forgot to high five my carry, and he got very upset. They do not, these calls, they're not happy if nobody high fives them. If they're left hanging, whew, you're gonna hear it. This guy turned on his mic, started accusing me. Where's my high five? I just don't get, I'm too old. I'm too old for this. I don't high five. I just win games.
You gotta high five. It keeps that team morale up. Dota's a team game, like, you don't play solo nowadays. You gotta work together in your pubs.
Used to be able to solo.
Sicko. Really sick, man. Like, you know, if you ask yourself why things go wrong, that's why, because you're a Necrobook user. Oh, that's exactly it.
I deserve it. Talon. They're grouped up still, John. At least they've made it outside of their base. Supporting the left side of that mid lane, but Boom. They go Jackie. Right onto KP for the Nightmare. Gonna take KP for now. They just knock on the lockdown into that Savage. Getting a stun off onto Jackie into the Avalanche toss combination. The first reincarnation line. Jackie was close. Back the other way now for Japoy. Moves in with a massive drive into the boat fleet. They got the reincarnation life. So Boom, they do not want to force the fight any further. And it's just a massive issue. Makoto, he could just jump in and out so frequently. Just snipes the first life and Boom can't go any further.
And the big thing for Talon is they expend a couple of BKBs, but they don't have to use their refreshes. Doom is still ready to go on Savage. Double Doom is still ready to go here as
Radiant's
well.
bottom tower
They need
is
to
under
equalize their
attack.
lane, so bot is still shoving pretty hard, so they can't spend too much
Radiant's
time
top
outside
tower.
base. Not going to lead to many opportunities here for Talon. Are baiting out a little bit with Mikado, but Boom's all the way back home, knowing that when you give an opening like that, things can go out south very quickly. I do love what Jackie's doing though, Mike. Going for the axe in the raid kick. So even if you kill someone off, those spells will still fly in. It could still get dicey for Talon. Especially, think about it though, like if say Yopaj gets pinned down in the AoE of the Raid King. Stays alive, manages to get a Hex use, manages to get the Ghost Ship use, maybe even a Tidal Storm. It gets pretty wacky to try to fight against that, especially because at that point the BKBs are already off. You have no way of dealing with it, and just could lead to a win situation for Boom anyway. That Ag's pickup on Jackie's gonna be big.
John, you're thinking too simply. You gotta think about the Rizpol and Minamipo strategies here, John. You get Divine Rapiers, and you TP back in the reincarnation. You never lose the Divine. It's brilliant. Like, you just get to point Divine Rapier. What's stopping him, right? He'll refresh, pop his BKB, TP out. There's going to be fight to walk out, and now Tim's going right back on Makoto. Forces the beat from Makoto's been caught out. The Nightmare's not going to save him. He is gone. He could buy back, though, if he wants to keep this fight going. He has been brought back down Savage. It's still healing up, still surviving. Finally go down. Finds him from the Marcy. Will take him down. Meanwhile, Savage is tossed away by Q, being saved by the Tiny. Tiny Airlines getting Savage out of there just in the nick of time. No visa necessary. He's just fine. Still TP right back to the base, and Oh, Q. Had he not saved Savage, John, that might have been massive for Boom, but Boom, they lose a hell of a lot in that team fight.
Oh, Mikado has to be a bit cautious. He may just buy back. So you're in a very awkward spot where, yes, Boom expends a lot of buybacks. They have to buy back in Yokai and their two supports. But if you find Mikado, those buybacks are worthwhile. That opens up high ground. It feels like Talon's not going to be able to play at that point. And Savage still has his buyback. You could find him as well. Roshan, real quick timer here for Boom. Very, very lucky as they're in a good position to take that Rosh. Could kind of mitigate that risk that Yopaj has here. And again, that could open up the high ground in a big way for Boom.
20 seconds, John. That's all I can say. 20 seconds. And Roshan's up. You are correct. Wind Waker on Q now as well. Props to Q on this Tiny. He's been doing a really damn good job of just the tossback saves on his teammates. Now with the Wind Waker, he can save even more.
Radiant's top tower is under
Roshan is
attack.
going to be scouted up by Skem. Boom. They will rush for this, I'm sure. Yopaj already bought the Axe Blessing for himself, so he won't need it. Jackie also bought the whole thing himself, I think. He did. So Jackie's not going to be Axe either. Yes.
You just hand it over to Stem, have the gobble up ready, and just initiate from a mile away. And now with that axe out, Jackie's very low risk. Not toss literally anyone as long as Jackie's close by.
Here we go. Here we go, John. Time has come. Talk to me about those T5 items, John.
Dire's courier has been
The
killed.
Stygian coming out for Boom is huge because they already have a Deso up, along with that additional minus armor, just to allow them to rapid damage. At least on Talon, that is Talon's hand. The Fallen Sky for Jackie will allow him to initiate very, very far in with the Scroll Link on top. So you feel pretty good. I think this is down to whoever gets refresh, that little orb that refreshes all your items. Yeah, if whoever gets that 20 seconds, you're pretty happy with that.
They're not going to wait that long. They'll refresh on FTC. Get done. Keep in mind the curve. He does have that 3 deaths later. So his damage is back quite on the Savage. Boy jumping in. That's down to Boy. On the Kuka. They want to know him down there. Boy. Give it down. Have the reincarnation like this. Well, right now, Savage. He is down scared. On the Sapphire. Another down here for Talon as Q jumps in, killing off the Boy. And now FTC. Wrapped up to the Marcy. Will take him down. Oh, Jackie. Still trying to keep this fight going. On the race. Give up a Carlo. Just jumping all across the team line. Not letting anything happen to his teammates. The Q-Point Savage. He'll buy back. He wants Jackie a second time. What can Jackie do on his own? The answer is not much. Not without a BKB. He is going to go down and Talon and successfully defend a high ground. That's another Hex out on Jackie. 3 heroes down without buyback here, Jonathan.
What?
Talon's got an opening.
I don't know how they did that. I legitimately don't know how they found that opening. They see FBZ run up, he uses his refresh, he tries to run down the top set of racks, trying to clear out the tier 3s, at least finds a tier 3, doesn't find the racks for his trouble. And with all of those buybacks gone, that's maybe an opportunity for Talon. They've got to find a way to push in though. They do have the refresh on KP, so EXO is ready to go. And even have a Book of the Dead right when they need it. I mean, you're happy now.
Dire's
back,
bottom
John.
tower
The boys
is
are
under
back.
attack.
Get him, Q. You pop that book, sir. You know what to do. There they are. Look at him,
Oh my
Jonathan.
god. No way.
Dire's
Back
bottom
in, John.
tower is under attack.
Great sis. Look at your force. They go into your
Dire's
fourth. I mean, there's
bottom
3
back.
heroes without buyback here for Boom. They had such an advantage. They had so many Roshans.
Dire's middle tower
Talon.
has fallen.
They are just a dedicated
Dire's
bunch.
structures
They
are
want this win.
fortified.
They want to be the best team in
Dire's
SCA.
bottom barracks are
They
under
might just
attack.
have it, at least for game 1. Looking on the T4 towers, good. They just find one last one to defend this FPD. He's in with Jackie on the main script. Gonna hold him down immediately. Jackie, how's he gonna fight this? It's all him against the world. FPZ's already going down. Jackie will go for takes that down as Jackie does get caught out. No chance of he's gone. And Talon. And what a game it was, John. They're still trying here, Boom. They are still trying, but the Ancient is going to go down.